only car search engine driven by you.
Register today at Elite Singles, where you'll benefit from 100% verified profiles, an extensive personality test, and tailored matches in your area. EliteSingles.com. Never more ready to fall in love again.
You know you get 3 courses, right?
Oh yeah.
It's back at Ruby Tuesday. For just $13.99, enjoy our endless garden bar, choice of 3 entree favorites and 2 new desserts.
I can't do it.
Rookie mistake.
Enjoy 3 courses, just $13.99 at Ruby Tuesday Garden Bar and Grill.
Have you ever seen something so beautiful that all you could say was, wow? Or walked on the world's best beach? At a place that made you feel like you were in a dream, where family comes first and fun is measured one ride at a time.
They're all about a good life.
Where you're served like royalty, but treated like family. Beaches, Turks, and Caicos, where anything is possible because everything is included. Wow! Get up to 65% off. Call 1-800-BEACHES.
When a fire is going on, you're not thinking clearly, so they called the fire department for us.
I could hear crackling in the walls. My mind went totally blank. All I remember saying was, my boyfriend's beating me, and we took it from there.
And all of this occurred in 4 minutes or less.
I am grateful we all made it out safely.
People you don't know care about you. It's kind of one of those things where you can't even hate somebody.
To protect what you love, call 1-800-ADT-CARES.
You're searching for something, like the perfect deal on the perfect hotel. So wouldn't it be perfect if there was a single site where you could find the right hotel for you at the best price? There is, because TripAdvisor now compares prices from over 200 booking sites to save you up to 30% on the hotel you want. Trust this bird's words. TripAdvisor, the latest reviews, the lowest prices.
Closed captioning brought to you by Zysol. For continuous 24-hour allergy relief, take new Zysol.
Allergy sufferers, if you have symptoms like these, try new Zysol for relief that's as effective at hour 24 as at hour 1. So be wise all, take new Zysol.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Aisha Sasay, live in Los Angeles, where it's just gone 11 p.m. on the West Coast.
And I'm John Hawes. Great to have you with us. We continue with the breaking news out of Phoenix, Arizona, where Donald Trump has delivered an angry and divisive speech, which has left many asking if this president can unite the country. Others now questioning his fitness for office. The U.S. president defended his much criticized response to the violence in Charlottesville, Virginia, but made no mention of his reference to blaming both sides for the violence.
Well, outside the rally, police used tear gas and smoke grenades against protesters. Police say the demonstrators were throwing rocks and bottles at officers. Most have dispersed at this point. Listen to what the president had to say.
But I spoke out forcefully against hatred, bigotry, and violence. In the media and the fake media, they make up stories. They have no sources in many cases. But Sheriff Joe can feel good. If we have to close down our government, we're building that wall. So I think we'll end up probably terminating NAFTA at some point. I don't believe that any president has accomplished as much as this president in the first 6 or 7 months. I really don't believe it.
Just a sample there of the highlights of the speech. So for more, joining us now, Democratic strategist Caroline Heldman and CNN political commentators, Democratic strategist Dave Jacobson and Republican consultant John Thomas.
Also with us, Republican strategist Austin James, Cypress College political science professor Peter Matthews, and in Phoenix, CNN's Miguel Marquez. And Miguel, if I can start with you, what's the situation like where you are right now?
Well, it's cleaned up. They're actually sweeping up, and some of that pepper spray and tear gas is starting to be if I start coughing uncontrollably, you'll know why. It's just being tossed up into the air. Phoenix police say that there were 4 arrests tonight. 3 of them were related to the protests. One of them was unrelated to it. There were 2 police officers who suffered some heat exhaustion as well. They portray this as an operation gone well. They say that there was tear gas thrown by protesters at police, but I can tell you that I was at the very point where it started, which was right down here where these barricades are. There were 2 water bottles thrown by protesters at the police. When they did that, without any warning, without any announcement, Phoenix police then fired off a single round of pepper spray, these little pepper bullets that they fire. That's when it set off the crowd, and that's when things got very, very intense here. They liberally use pepper spray, those little balls of pepper spray, tear gas, and the flashbang grenades, firing them over the heads of protesters to try to get them to disperse. It took a good hour and a half, 2 hours. Protesters had been here in 107-degree heat, what is it, about 42 degrees Celsius heat for much of the day. And they were loud, they were angry, for the most part peaceful. But when those 2 water bottles had been thrown, that's what set things off. They had thrown water bottles here and there throughout the day, taunting the Trump supporters as they walked into the convention center. But the police clearly had had enough just as the president was wrapping up and about to finish and about to leave the venue. That's when they moved in with great force against the protesters. Certainly not the picture that Phoenix want to present to the world tonight. They were treating this as a major event, like the Super Bowl. They had all hands on deck, including the National Guard. This is something I think that the mayor and the police chief say that they will have an after-action report now. But it was clear that they moved in very, very quickly and with great force against protesters who were, for the most part, exercising their First Amendment rights of free speech.
Miguel Marquez there, joining us from Phoenix, Arizona. Miguel, we appreciate the reporting. Go get some water and wash that gas and that pepper spray out of your eyes. Thank you.
Miguel, there, 11:04 in the evening, all this wrapping up. Okay, so there was lots to get to with this speech. It was a speech which started out relatively normally. The scripted part was a call for unity. Americans need to come together. And then came this broadside against the media, and, it was off to the races. So I want to go to Peter first. What's going on here with this president? Because at times he seemed angry, agitated. There was some bizarre and some blatantly incorrect statements, which he kept making over and over again.
It's unbelievable. Actually, he's facing a crisis of legitimacy, as we call in political science and sociology. Legitimacy is the authority to use power because of rightness, because of being right in doing so. It means people acknowledge your power, your decision-making, and they trust you with what you're doing. But in this case, this president's been all over the place. He says one thing one day, the opposite the next day. And to actually come out with falsehoods when he says, for example, that he will make sure that the reform in Obamacare would include pre-existing conditions, and when he proposes it, it doesn't include it. So many contradictions, and people are wondering, can he even handle foreign policy with North Korea, for example, where he pushes the country to the brink rather than negotiating. There's a lot of question of legitimacy here, and it's just an example of his position of lack of legitimacy among the eyes of the majority of American voters, apparently, especially according to the polls right now.
John Thomas, to you, as a Republican, I mean, this was a speech which, showed the president once again as someone who struggles to let things go. He brought up Charlottesville again, brought up all the statements that were made, and just seemed very, very angry. Is this the speech you expected from Donald Trump on this night?
It was. I mean, this is classic Trump. I would call this the back to basics Trump, and I'm actually glad we saw this Trump tonight, because Trump was starting to drift. Tonight he went back to the things that got him elected. Talk about, we're going to do whatever we need to do to build that wall. In fact, if it requires shutting down the government, that's how important it is to me to build that wall. He talked about jobs, talked about immigration numbers being down. I mean, he was hitting all the points. Yes, he did talk about fake news and fake media, something that is no, but I'm saying, but this is a standard rallying point. I thought what we saw tonight was Trump at his best.
Whoa, Caroline.
I'm going to say that he looked unhinged. I think that Republicans, many of them, see Trump through what I call Trump goggles, where they're in a state of denial about how bad it is. I think he's lost legitimacy. I think he lost a lot of moral authority in the past week when he leveled Nazis with protesters, and he didn't help his case. He did not help his case this evening, right? He didn't talk about the people who lost their lives on the USS John McCain, but he went after John McCain, who's battling cancer, the fight of his life.
It's not fair to give somebody a pass, and John McCain's a hero, and I wish him a speedy recovery.
It's stupid
but he
politics.
hurt the Republican Party by the vote he cast.
But you
Donald
don't.
Trump's
But
off the hook for
But
that.
Donald Trump looked like a child going after him. It's not smart politics to go after someone who's battling brain cancer.
Let me bring Austin James here as a GOP strategist again. Was it smart politics? Was it smart to make this speech? To John's point, this was a speech that hit all the notes, but was this the time to make this particular speech?
Listen, I'll echo John. I think this was his greatest hits. I mean, he's playing what worked from the campaign. I think, listen, if John or I were maybe in his speech writing team, this maybe not the way we would have done it. But I think what you're seeing is that he's constantly keeping the media off kilter. Right. I mean, listen, I think his team probably wanted 3, 4, or 5 more days of what he talked about yesterday, some of that good press coverage to be out there. Listen, what we're talking about on this desk right now is not what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago when I was here, which is the special counsel. And I think there is a method to his madness. And I think if you look at his polling numbers, you're not going to see a change in those who support him coming into this.
But I think the issue, right, is like the method to his madness is he's got an agenda that in a platform that he campaigned on, but he's failed time and again to deliver it. The reality is that the New York Times came out today earlier reporting that Donald Trump hasn't even had any conversations with Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Republican Senate, obviously, almost in a month. And the last conversation that they had, they were spewing, outrage at each other over the health care bill. The reality is Donald Trump hasn't been able to deliver for his constituents, and that's why you're seeing this erosion of his poll numbers, particularly in some of these key states, the Rust Belt states. NBC put out a poll yesterday, Michigan, Wisconsin, another state, and they had approval ratings around 35%. These are states that ultimately helped him propel to victory, and I think that's a big issue for him moving forward as we look to 2018.
You're one of the strangest moments. There were a lot of strange moments. You may think it was his greatest hits. There were some strange moments. This was when he went after the media. He went after the mainstream media, New York Times, Washington Post, CNN. And this is part of what he said. Take a look.
The live red lights, they're turning those suckers off fast, I'll tell you. They're turning those lights off fast. Like CNN does not want its falling viewership to watch what I'm saying tonight, I can tell.
Austin, he was accusing us of not broadcasting his speech. And you know where I saw that? On CNN.
Yeah, wall to wall.
I mean, this was I mean, I'm sorry.
Okay, listen, I mean,
this was a little divorce from reality at the very least.
Sure, but I mean, it's one of those things where you can kind of put your finger in the air and see where the wind's blowing. Look at the people behind him. I mean, as soon as he drops these one-liners, the people erupted. I mean, he was playing to his crowd. He wasn't having an intellectual debate. And I think we need to be clear about that.
May I say something? The only problem is the people behind him represent 33% of the population, the voting population. His numbers have dropped tremendously from when he got elected. His approval rating is way down in all the polls. Doesn't matter if it's a poll that's sampling voters or sampling general public. So he's going, those people behind him may be his loyal supporters, but he cannot win re-election with them. That needs to become more legitimate with other people, with the rest of America, by reaching out to people and using some of the tradition and charisma and legality which most people who are legitimate actually rely on as leaders of the country.
Well, Peter, I want to stay with you because I want all of us to take a listen to something else the president had to say about the media, because he did go on about the media
a lot.
Well over 20 minutes, let's be clear, because he didn't just say the media, he didn't say we are just bad people. He took it a step further. Take a listen.
For the most part, honestly, these are really, really dishonest people, and they're bad people. And I really think they don't like our country. I really believe that.
Peter, the President of the United States saying the media doesn't like this country. He really does believe that. A free media is one of the pillars of American democracy. I mean, democracy, what's his end game here?
It is very dangerous because now he's vilifying the character of a major institution that's important for democracy as a mediating influence. And he's just calling them evil. He could use the word evil and saying they're bad people. You don't negotiate with bad people or with evil. And that is very dangerous. He's vilifying anyone who doesn't agree with him as being anti-American. And that is going back to not just McCarthyism, but perhaps worse even toward fascism or something like in what was going on in Germany before Hitler or when he came to power, as he was thrown to power. So something you have to really watch out for.
I know you want to respond to that. I just want to get this one response that we had from the former Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, because a lot of people out there are now questioning this president's fitness for office. Clapper took it one step further.
Is he a threat to national security, the president?
Well, he certainly could be. Again, having some understanding of the levers that a president can exercise. I worry about, frankly, the access to nuclear codes. If he, in a fit of pique, he decides to do something about Kim Jong-un, there's actually very little to stop him.
Caroline, when James Clapper is worried about the president having access to the nuclear codes, should we all be worried about the president having the access to the nuclear codes?
Yes, and I think many of us are. And I think it's time for the Republicans to step up and put their country before their party. It is time to look at what 40% of Americans want, which is impeachment. It is time to look at the possibility that his fitness might be compromised by mental health issues or cognitive issues. I mean, this is a man who couldn't find his limo coming off a plane. This is a man who didn't know where he was in the middle of a presser with Netanyahu. This is a man, anytime he's not on script, sounds like a rambling person, a rambling press conference, Kofefi. I mean, how much more do we need to question his fitness?
As much as I respect you, I don't think you have a medical degree, and I think it's absurd that the media plays into this by trying to diagnose his mental
You think
state.
this is normal?
Because you didn't agree with the words in
No. His actions aren't normal. His actions, he is unhinged in his speech. He doesn't know where his limo is. He doesn't know where he is.
What's not fair about Clapper's remarks, I think, is that we're coming off of last night, the Afghanistan speech, which I thought, as a Republican, he hit all the right notes. So,
well,
you know,
Trump.
So what? He signed off, and even Mattis said today that he had had a thorough review of the procedure, what we should do in Afghanistan. So, you know, all of a sudden, Clapper said, "Hey, I'm not trusting with the nuclear codes." But last night, he did a great job.
I mean, that is the first thing.
You didn't like Trump at a rally? I mean,
well, he is dovetailing his campaign side with his presidential side, and I think that makes people uneasy, and it's very difficult to defend if I'm sitting on your side of the aisle, but I don't think that makes him necessarily unfit.
Last word today.
I don't think it takes an Einstein to know that this country right now needs healing. He's ripping us apart at our seams, and he came off as a repulsive, menacing, mad person. And the reality is we need a stable leader who can lead our country and move us forward. And the reality is when you have national security experts who are widely respected among Republicans and Democrats saying these kinds of things, that's very scary for our country.
Very quickly, let me talk about national security for just a minute, please. Yeah, Clapper's statement is very important because think of what he did with Kim Jong-un in the middle of this crisis where he keeps escalating and brinkmanship. For example, when Kim Jong-un said, we're not going to fire those 4 missiles at Guam, the president should have actually said, we're going to take a step also to back down a bit to give a confidence-building measure a chance to survive and work. That's how you negotiate. That's what I'm really concerned about, that Mr. Clapper's statement was absolutely correct that this president may not know how to negotiate, may not know the history of North Korea-U.S. relations, the fact that we've never signed a peace treaty with them. All of these things have to be brought, and this president does not have the details of history or diplomacy or the judgment sometimes to reciprocate and be able to keep things under control in a crisis.
Good point for
my
Yes, we're going to squeeze in a very quick break. Stay with us, everyone. The conversation continues. We are live from Los Angeles with CNN Newsroom LA, so do stay with us. Lots more to come. President Trump says American history and heritage are under threat, but not everyone hears the same thing.
Wait, so you got rid of Verizon just like that? I switched to T-Mobile, kept my phone, everything on it. Oh, I even paid it off. Wow. Yeah. It's nice that every bad decision doesn't have to be permanent.
Ditch Verizon, keep your phone. We'll even pay it off when you switch to America's best unlimited network.
Security?
Identity-based security.
Doesn't look very tough.
Well, if you're supposed to be here, you barely notice it. But if you're not... Awesome.
Knowing where you stand has never been easier, except when it comes to retirement. At Fidelity, you get a retirement score in just 60 seconds, and we'll help you make decisions for your plan to keep you on track. It's your retirement. Know where you stand.
You're searching for something, like the perfect deal on the perfect hotel. So wouldn't it be perfect if there was a single site where you could find the right hotel for you at the best price? There is, because TripAdvisor now compares prices from over 200 booking sites to save you up to 30%. on the hotel you want. Trust this bird's words. TripAdvisor, the latest reviews, the lowest prices.
It's your first day on the job.
Walk in like you own the place. Now at Men's Warehouse, get 3 for $99 dress shirts plus buy one, get one on select items. It's time to like the way you look.
It's just not the same with back pain. Dones relieves back pain.
Wow.
Dones, we've had your back's back since way back. Now available in a cream.
Let's see. There's the Wildcats Till We Die Weekenders. The Watch Me Let It Fly. This I gotta try Weekenders. Then we've got the Bendy Spendy Weekenders. The Tranquility Awaits. Hanging with Our Mates Weekenders. And the It's Been Quite a Day, So Glad We Got Away Weekenders.
Whatever kind of weekender you are, there's a Hilton for you.
Book your weekend break direct at Hilton.com and join the Weekenders.
You know, Geico just saved me hundreds of dollars on my car insurance.
Huh. I should take a closer look at Geico.
Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and fast and friendly claim service.
Speaking of service. Ooh, just out.
It was in.
Out.
In.
Out.
In.
What about now?
That was our only shuttlecock.
Take a closer look at Geico. Great savings and a whole lot more.
And from the ocean waters off the coast of Florida tonight,
Illian's mother is believed to have drowned.
6 years old is too young to speak for themselves.
why has this become so political?
Well, of course, I'd rather grow up in the United States.
The Cuban-American National Foundation versus the Castro brothers.
The crowd here very angry over the Elian Gonzalez situation.
This was spinning out of control.
God, America, what did you do this for?
CNN Films presents Elian, Thursday on CNN.
Was Sheriff Joe convicted for doing his job? That's what...
Welcome back, everybody. Coming up to 20 minutes past 11 here on the West Coast. You're watching CNN, and that was Donald Trump. Was one of the highlights of a very controversial speech. Another one which he made a short time ago in Phoenix, Arizona. He was talking about Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who is not doing his job right now because he actually is facing charges of contempt after a judge ordered him to stop racially profiling Latinos in Arizona. So our panel back with us again, and John, you know, the White House said one thing that, the local officials in Phoenix, rather, were concerned. The one thing that could set off violence here in Phoenix was if Donald Trump pardoned Sheriff Joe. He didn't do that, technically, but he came very close. Listen to this.
So, was Sheriff Joe convicted for doing his job? That's what... He should have had a jury, but you know what? I'll make a prediction. I think he's going to be just fine, okay?
And Arpaio was actually convicted of criminal contempt. So, you know, it would seem to be a tough argument to make that you're not a racist while you're about to pardon a man who's been found guilty and convicted of essentially, you know, racist acts of racially profiling Latinos.
Arpaio's popular with the base. I mean, there's no question about that.
This is a man who's been found guilty of racially profiling Latinos. Donald Trump says, I'm not a racist, but I'm going to pardon the guy who is.
I mean, I think he likes the work, by and large, that Arpaio does. I think the Republican base likes the work that Arpaio has done. He didn't officially say he was going to pardon him. I think he might stretch this out. Trump knows how to drive ratings, so we'll see what he does. I mean, he didn't officially say what he'll do.
Dave, to bring you in here, I mean, John and Austin keep making the point that this was about the base. This was about the base. Is this speech the right way to go about holding that base together?
Look, looking through purely a political lens as a strategist, I understand that Donald Trump is at 34% according to the Gallup poll that came out last week nationwide. Like, he's almost got no place left to go. Remember, Richard Nixon was at 24% according to Gallup when he resigned from office. So Donald Trump needs to hold the base that he has. He can't go any further. And the reality is he was throwing out red meat tonight to his base. I mean, to these sort of racist, xenophobic, angry, right, like constituents that that helped propel him to office. And the reality is he was defiant tonight. And his statement essentially endorsed a convicted felon who is a racist. And it validates the argument that Donald Trump is a racist. Donald Trump, who last week equated anti-Nazi protesters to neo-Nazis and white supremacists. The reality is this is further evidence that Donald Trump is a racist.
Okay, I want to bring Peter in because, Peter, smart politics doesn't actually mean it's smart policy or it's actually good for the country.
That's correct. Public policy has to be public interest. It has to serve the whole country. And Trump is not doing that. He's looking at a very narrow slice of the pie, which he wants to retain just to hopefully win back and keep the Senate and the House in his hands. It has to do with Congress as well. The election they're up for in 2018. And if he's only considered himself to be a politician, but not a leader, not a statesperson, not someone who wants to lead this country in the right direction, he will not be successful, and neither will the Congress itself, which is at lowest popularity ratings right now, especially the Republicans in Congress. So this has to be turned around. It's not good policy. Politics that may be good for him to get possibly reelected, which I don't think he will, is not good policy in terms of public interest. And that's what we have to look for.
Caroline, to bring you in here, I mean, I guess the question is this President Trump's view of what leadership is? I mean, or is it that he just doesn't know how to lead? I mean, which one is it in your view?
I think it's amateur hour at the White House. I think he's demonstrated that full well. But I would agree that he has nowhere to go but his base. His base has actually shrunk. Those who say that they strongly support Donald Trump has gone from 30% to 20% since May. There's a reason why people like Joe Arpaio in his base. It's because they are demonstrably higher in racial resentment and xenophobia. They elected a man who was the head of the birther movement after 8 years because they were triggered by the first black president. It's not a matter of opinion. It's actually a matter of data, and Donald Trump knows that. So he is pitching to his base, especially after he disaffected so many in his base last night with his Afghanistan speech, which was actually reasonable policy.
Also, I just want to ask you, as an American, as a citizen of this country, do you think that what Donald Trump did tonight was good? Was this good for the country?
Listen, I think that's probably a pretty subjective question. I mean, listen. I mean, listen? Like I said, I'm not on here to necessarily defend everything he does. I would say this, as a Republican, when people kind of label, they kind of bucket label us as Nazis or whatever, anti-this or pro-that. I think at some point we have to look inward and say, okay, listen, what is it that we've done as a political party that maybe we believe that sticks with some people? But I think likewise, the media should take some responsibility. Listen, he's throwing these things out there and it's sticking with lots of people. Why is that? What has the media done? What has, the failure for the media to call these protesters, But
you're not answering the question.
I'm going to take that as you don't think.
Yeah, I think is he good?
I think
are these speeches, are these moments good for the country?
Refocusing on the basics of solving and fixing the illegal immigration problem is good for all Americans because it lifts up all boats. It helps create more good-paying jobs for working Americans that are American citizens.
The language and the tone and the dog whistles.
If that's what he has to do to drive his policies and get something done.
But is it though?
No, it's actually counter.
No, but the broader point that I was trying to make is that it's not the president doesn't exist in a bubble, right? And POTUS is not, speaking and we're just all listening. I mean, we're having a dialogue and we're hearing xenophobe and these words are being thrown around. So our discussion is as divisive as what maybe you would label it.
No, it's labeling reality. It's labeling what the actions and behaviors of
There were some good things discussed. There were some policy references made. I haven't heard one discussion of those. I mean, we're getting here.
But here's the reality. If I could just jump in. This was a line in the sand. This was a line in the sand moment opportunity for a lot of Republicans, right? We saw last week you had Marco Rubio who came out and condemned the president. You had several Republicans, Bob Corker, of course, who basically said Donald Trump doesn't understand the character of this nation.
Donald Trump since moment
But he was on the short list for Secretary of State. The reality is there are some Republicans who have capitalized on this opportunity to say, you know what, neo-Nazism isn't the Republican brand. And you know what, I applaud those Republicans. But Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell and too many Republicans
Did you watch the beginning of his speech when he condemned the KKK?
Okay.
Break time.
Break time. And Peter will get to you after the break.
Peter, promise.
Okay, thank you.
Keep the thought, okay?
All right. Very quick break because there is so much to discuss. Stay with us. We are live here on the West Coast. A lot to discuss, including the surprising length to which President Trump says he's willing to go to build that wall.
Buried just under the surface, the answer to it all. We want to meet each other.
Booking a flight at the last minute doesn't have to be expensive. Just go to Priceline. It's the best place to book a flight a few days before my trip and still save up to 40%. Just tap and go. And while I'm gone, I can even check on my baby with this doggy cam. Oh, Jax, you're such a good boy. No, Jax, what are you doing? Bad dog. And if you need to get back home, like right now, Priceline has you covered.
You push yourself every day. Tempur-Pedic helps you recover every night. Tempur material provides up to twice as much pressure-relieving power, so you won't toss and turn. Through September 17th, save up to $500 on select adjustable sets. Tempur-Pedic sleep is power.
You know you get free courses, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's back at Ruby Tuesday. For just $13.99, enjoy our endless garden bar choice of 3 entree favorites and 2 new desserts.
I can't do it.
Rookie mistake. Enjoy 3 courses, just $13.99 at Ruby Tuesday Garden Bar and Grill.
Welcome to the no pressure zone. Carl, have you met everyone? You see, time is just a construct of human perception, an illusion, like this one.
No, I can't breathe.
Which means there's no pressure to get a great rate on a hotel. They're available for an unlimited time, always. So book now, or don't. No pressure.
Need new floors? Empire Today makes getting beautiful new floors easy. Impossible? Let me show you. Empire brings hundreds of samples to you. We call it Shop at Home. The floors are high quality and come with great warranties. Plus, Empire handles the installation. You don't lift a finger, and the job's done right. Shop at Home, quality floors, professional installation. That's Empire Today.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
You're in the Match app. Now tap on the new Missed Connections feature.
Says I've crossed paths with Keith 6 times this week.
That is a lot of times.
She's cute, too.
Yeah.
How did I miss her?
You didn't. Match picked it up for you. Check out new Missed Connections on Match. Start for free today.
The untold story of how America stopped a dangerous Cuban espionage operation.
He was the personal spy for Fidel Castro.
Declassified. Saturday night at 9 on CNN.
A king's born. I told you before. A king is born. I told you before.
No fighter in history has done what Floyd Mayweather has done. I'm gonna knock him out, mark my words.
Mayweather versus McGregor, Saturday, August 26th, live on pay-per-view.
Order now with your remote or call 844-807-2726.
Changing your oil after 3,000 miles?
Kevin Harvick.
If you'd use new Mobile One annual protection, you wouldn't have to. You protect your engine for 1 year with just one oil change.
Don't change your oil. New Mobile One annual protection.
I'm so glad my gynecologist recommended it. Have the itching and irritation of feminine itch? Not a problem anymore.
Cortisone 10 Feminine Itch Relief with Aloe has the strongest non-prescription itch medicine for fast, gentle, long-lasting relief. Cortisone 10, itch-free, worry-free.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Welcome back, everybody, to CNN Newsroom. We are live from Los Angeles. It has just gone 11:30 here on the West Coast. We are covering President Trump's campaign rally in Arizona just a few hours ago. It was classic Trump from last year's campaign. He played all his greatest hits and added a few instant classics as well.
What was once crooked Hillary has become the crooked media, and Republican-controlled Congress is filling in for the establishment after their failure to pass a repeal bill for Obamacare. And, of course, his signature promise, the wall. Here's a renewed commitment to build it.
Believe me, we have to close down our government. We're building that wall.
Well, back with us, Democratic strategist Caroline Hellman, CNN political commentators, Democratic strategist Dave Jacobson, and Republican consultant John Thomas. My Lord.
We've got to get you guys to share the title. Also, Republican strategist Austin James and Cypress College political science professor Peter Matthews. Dave, first you. We've now gone from Mexico's going to pay for the wall to we'll shut down the government and make Congress pay for the wall.
I mean, that's which is crazy, right? Like, we're going to shut down the government. Think about that for a second. The Republicans control government, right? Like, I just don't understand the calculus here. Like, how does that help him move the ball forward? You've got no dialogue with Mitch McConnell. You've got a terrible relationship with Paul Ryan. A number of Republicans are starting to come out and skewer the president. The reality is he's not going to be able to get anything done if he continues to throw out these threats.
I mean, Austin, to bring you in, really, the president's saying he's willing to shut down the government for a war? If you're a Republican in Congress, you're thinking what right now?
Listen, I don't know anybody who's reaching across the aisle to help in this moment, but I will say this. I don't necessarily know this is a bad thing. I mean, what he's trying to basically get across is say, listen, if nothing gets done, it's not me, it's them. And he's isolating the media for anything that maybe comes out that's not positive. He's isolating the Republicans. He's certainly isolating Democrats. I don't know if that's not a bad thing. I mean, this will all play out.
Okay, Peter, to you, Austin seems to think it's not a bad thing shutting down the government. How does the stock market react? How does the global economy react to if there is, in fact, a government shutdown?
Well, they won't react very well at all, but I'd like to make a point about policy, 2 policy points. One is if you look at the fact that Donald Trump won the electoral votes, but he also lost the popular vote by 3 million, he did it because the Macomb County, Michigan voters, who voted for Barack Obama, by the way, in 2008 and 2012, they voted for Donald Trump because they lost manufacturing jobs. They were not replaced by retraining for new jobs. Trump is not addressing that part of it. And the wall, he talks about shutting off the illegal immigration. The folks that come from south of the border don't come here for the good food or the good weather that we have, which we do. They come here because they're looking for work. And NAFTA and free trade has been a major problem, and the neglect of working class people. And so I think he needs to put this together. Trump needs to look at the overall picture and stop scapegoating and blaming one portion of the population or this or that and neglecting the real voters. So I think it would be a terrible thing to shut down the government. At the same time, he's got to address some real underlying causes of our problems right now, which he's not doing very well in my view.
Okay. Caroline?
Well, I want to dispel the myth that economic anxiety is what drove this election. I hope that every CNN viewer goes and Googles some of the studies that have come out. It wasn't economic anxiety. In fact, Hillary Clinton won amongst working class voters in these swing states. It was racial resentment. It was high rates of xenophobia and high rates of ethnocentrism.
People who voted for Barack Obama twice are now racist in 2016. Is that what happened?
I am saying that it was not driven by economic anxiety.
So, but you're saying people
You're making an argument. No, I'm not saying that at all. It's not the same people turning out to vote. I am saying